Welcome back to AfriVlog updates, where we dissect the truth behind headlines, expose the hands behind the curtains, and amplify the revolutionary voices fighting for African and Black liberation. Please, if you find this video resonate with you, hit that subscription and subscribe because you might not see us again. Turn on the notification bell for you to be notified. Do not forget to drop a comment. Today, we react to a chilling yet prophetic message delivered by Minister Louis Farrakhan, directed straight at Burkina Faso's young revolutionary, Ibrahim Traoré. A warning that echoes from history: be careful, they are coming. This message comes at a time when AFRICOM, under US General Michael Langley, is painting leaders like Traoré as threats to stability and security. But we've seen this script before applied to Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba and Muammar Gaddafi. The West doesn't fear chaos in Africa, it fears sovereignty and the unity of the continent. Before we continue, let's watch this speech by Louis Farrakhan. We'll be back soon.
This is a hell of a betrayal of the American people when you will not tell them the truth because you're afraid that if you tell the truth, your bosses will take your job from you. That's a hell of a thing. You don't have a democracy when you don't have a free press. You're all slaves and you love it. So you deserve what you get. The erosion of your democracy. You'll soon be the laughing stock of the world.
After watching this, please drop us your comment. What do you think? Ibrahim Traoré not your typical president. He's not a polished politician from a Western think tank. He's a soldier of the people, a man channeling the fire of Thomas Sankara himself. At just 34, he's challenging neocolonialism, kicking out foreign troops, and reclaiming the narrative of African self-determination. And what happens when a young African leader decides to stand up and say, no more exploitation, no more Western puppets, no more submission? The empire gets nervous. And when they get nervous, they start sending messages, from accusations to assassinations. Louis Farrakhan's warning wasn't just a statement, it was a lifeline. A message wrapped in both faith and fact: they are coming. And he's not talking about some vague conspiracy. He's talking about a documented pattern of sabotage, destabilization, and assassination of African leaders who dared to think independently. Farrakhan is a man who has survived decades of COINTELPRO surveillance, black leader assassinations, and CIA smear campaigns. So when he speaks with the authority of experience. Let's talk history. Because today's warning echoes yesterday's tragedies. In 1987, Thomas Sankara, president of Burkina Faso, was gunned down by his own comrade, Blaise Compaoré, in a coup supported by foreign powers. Sankara was uniting the people, rejecting IMF debt, redistributing land, and cutting off Western influence. He changed the country's name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, land of upright people. That really terrified the West. Let's go back to 1961. Patrice Lumumba, Congo's first prime minister, was captured, tortured, and assassinated with full cooperation from the CIA and Belgian operatives. Why? Because he wanted Congo's vast mineral wealth to benefit its own people. For that, he was labeled a communist threat. And then there's Gaddafi, Libya's leader for over 40 years. He was planning a Pan-African currency backed by gold, challenging the dominance of the US dollar and the CFA franc. He called for an African Union with real military power and financial independence. What happened? NATO bombed Libya into chaos in 2011, and Gaddafi was murdered like an animal in the street. Kwame Nkrumah. Let's not forget Kwame Nkrumah, the visionary of African unity and the first president of Ghana. Overthrown in a 1966 CIA-backed coup while traveling to China. His dream of one strong, united Africa was too dangerous for Western powers built on division. Others silenced. Sylvanus Olympio of Togo, assassinated. Samora Machel of Mozambique, mysterious plane crash. Steve Biko of South Africa, beaten to death in prison. And today, Traoré is being painted in the same light: anti-democratic, authoritarian, dangerous. What's the role of AFRICOM to Africa? AFRICOM, the US Africa Command, is not about peace. It's about military leverage over African soil. It's about access to critical minerals, surveillance of political movements, and controlling strategic choke points like the Gulf of Guinea and the Horn of Africa. When General Langley warns about disinformation, instability, and foreign actors, what he's really saying is, they are losing control, and they don't like it. If AFRICOM was for African security, why are African nations still plagued by insurgencies, coups, and foreign debt traps? Why is every solution Western-led and African-paid? Ibrahim Traoré is part of a new wave. The modern-day resistance. Alongside Assimi Goïta in Mali and others in Niger, is cutting off Western strings, building regional alliances, and pushing for military and financial independence. These leaders are not puppets, they are Pan-Africanists. But here's the risk: history tells us that every time Africa begins to unite, the empire fractures it. From divide and rule in colonial times to sanctions, regime change, and propaganda today. Farrakhan's words are not just a warning to Traoré, they are a message to all of us: stay alert. Stay united. Because the attack is not just physical, it's psychological, economic, and informational. We must protect our leaders, especially Ibrahim Traoré. We must speak their names, tell their truths, and guard their visions. Because what they are building is not just for Burkina Faso or Congo, it's for every African child born into a continent still shackled by foreign greed. Finally, to Traoré, may you move wisely. May you learn from Sankara's courage and avoid his betrayal. And to all the African youth watching, this is not just history. This is your moment. Your revolution.
Mr. President, friends, we are very glad to see you. And first of all, I would like to thank you once again for making this decision to participate in the commemorative events to honor the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War. I remember our constructive and useful conversation back in 2023 when you visited our country for the first time to participate in the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg. This time, your visit to Russia to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the victory is a great symbol, and it reflects the friendly character of relations between Burkina Faso and Russia. And I would like to mention your contribution, your country's contribution to defeating German Nazism and its allies. Some 30,000 Burkinabe fought with the anti-Hitler coalition forces under the guidance, under the leadership of legendary Frenchman Charles de Gaulle. And now we are united by our joint goal to fight against terrorism and extremism, and we will continue to support the Republic and restoring constitutional and lawful order, to fight against unlawful factions that are still operating in some parts of Burkina Faso. In recent years, we have accomplished great progress in mutually beneficial cooperation in various fields. In the end of 2023, after more than 30 years of hiatus, the embassy of Russia in Ouagadougou was turned operational again. And the economic cooperation is also important, even if trade is modest. It's growing, which is a good trend, and we need to preserve it. And we will continue to work together on further strengthening our economic ties and diversify further our trade cooperations. And it was useful to hold economic days of Burkina Faso in Russia that were held in 2024. And it was attended by the high-level Burkinabe delegation led by the Deputy Prime Minister, and we are working now on establishing intergovernmental commission. We have already established a working group to look into that matter, and we will continue to support your country in training personnel in 2024 and in 2025. The quota of Russian state scholarship for Burkinabe nationals was more than doubled, and this year we are ready to receive 27 more students from your country at the state's expense, and in total more than 3,500 Burkinabe received higher education in Russia. Cultural and humanitarian ties also play an important part, and it is assisted by the Russian house that is operating in Ouagadougou since 2024. In particular, they are teaching Russian language there. There is a great potential in cooperation in the field of healthcare and sanitary regulations. Recently, on April 24-25, Madam Popova visited Ouagadougou and discussed the development of scientific and research infrastructure and training of personnel. We also prioritize humanitarian support for Burkina Faso. Last year, we allocated 25,000 tons of wheat free of charge, and this month we are going to send a large supply of other food products to Ouagadougou. We appreciate the support from Burkina Faso on many international platforms, including the UN and other multilateral platforms. A useful format of cooperation is the consultations between Russia and Sahel States Confederation. April this year, such a session was held in Moscow with foreign ministers. There are good prospects in many areas, and we will have a chance to discuss some of them today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Mr. President. I hope I pronounced my felicitation properly. For me, it was an honor to be part of these commemorative events devoted to the great victory anniversary, and I would like to thank you for inviting us. It was a great honor for us. And I need to say that during this visit, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about culture, about history, that lay the foundation of the resistance of the Russian people, of its struggle. I learned of sacrifices your people made, and due to these sacrifices, we are free now. And I would like to thank you once again for this invitation, and this meeting allows us to think about what's happening in the world today and to think about the prospects as well. The obstacles that we can see today must not stop us. These obstacles, in some way, they are even an advantage, because despite all the sanctions that were imposed on the Russian Federation by many states, Russia is still holding the leading position internationally, and we understand this. We understand how difficult it is. And I watched the parade, I watched the soldiers marching in front of us during the parade. I saw the equipment, including the tanks that from the times of World War II, and I saw the modern equipment, and we would like to see the cooperation between our countries developing rapidly, developing swiftly, and acquired new shapes and forms. We thank you for your attitude towards Burkina Faso. Today I visited Mental Health Institute, and we understand that apart from defense and security, there is another essential field, which is science and education, and we would like to see Russia assisting us in training and educating our youth to help us to develop our own industries, our own enterprises. Machinery, other types of manufacturing, because it's very important for Africa. We believe that terrorism that we can see today is a legacy of imperialism, and that's something that we fight against. If we put an end to this war, if we have a strong army, then we can develop our motherland. This is why we continue to fight. That is why we have this struggle. That's why it's important to train personnel, to educate people. In Africa needs a lot when it comes to equipment, when it comes to technology and machinery, and there are a lot of expectations in this regard. And that's why we still need to do a lot, we need to work a lot, and we would like to request an assistant. And the most important thing you can help with is this exchanges, transfers of technology, exchange of experience. We need to understand how we can use the experience and the know-how that Russian universities have, and how we can spread it to Burkina Faso, how we can open branches of the Russian universities and Burkina Faso to be more efficient in the way we educate our people, our citizens. This is the essential task that we are faced with. We would like to see Burkina Faso developing, and we would like to see students coming to us to learn various sciences. We can see great young people in the Russian Federation. Among them, there are a lot of researchers, young scientists, and we would like to learn from you. And another important area is military. We have a lot of projects in the field of defense.
The love of his people. That has never happened in these 6,000 years. And it certainly is not so in America, and it was not so in Libya. I never lived in Libya, so I don't know Libya like the Libyans know Libya. But I know something of the good of Muammar Gaddafi that made me to love him as a brother and to feel a great sense of loss at his assassination. Before I say to the public some of the things that Brother Gaddafi did that can be proved at no limit of time, I'd like to read to the public Brother Gaddafi's last will and testament that came out sometime yesterday. As you know, Brother Muammar Gaddafi was offered asylum in other countries. He refused to leave Libya. And as you know, he said he would be martyred in Libya. This is where he lived, this is where he would fight, and this is where he would die. So I'd like to read this will, and I want you to listen carefully to his words. He said, "This is my will. I, Muammar bin Mudabir bin Muhammad bin Abdussalam bin Humaid bin Abu Manya bin Humaid bin Nail al-Fusi Gaddafi, do swear that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. Peace be upon him. I pledge that I will die as a Muslim." This was written on the 17th of October. He said, "Should I be killed, I would like to be buried according to Muslim rituals in the clothes I was wearing at the time of my death, but with my body unwashed in the cemetery of Sirte next to my family and relatives. I would like that my family, especially the women and children, to be treated well after my death. The Libyan people should protect its identity, achievements, history, and the honorable image of its ancestors and heroes. The Libyan people should not relinquish the sacrifices of the free and best people. I call on my supporters to continue the resistance and fight any foreign aggressor against Libya today, tomorrow, and always. Let the free people of the world know that I could have sold out our cause in return for a secure and stable personal life. I received many offers to this effect, but chose to be at the vanguard of the confrontation as a badge of duty and honor. Even if we do not win immediately, we will provide a lesson to future generations that choosing to protect the nation is an honor, and selling it out is the greatest betrayal that history will forever remember, however they try to portray this. This was the end of his will. He was killed in a military uniform. He wanted to be buried in the khaki clothes that he was wearing. And of course, you heard the news that they took his body out in the middle of the night. He and his son, Mutassim, who we have in a picture meeting with Hillary Clinton a year and a half ago and shaking hands with Secretary of State Clinton, which should show the world that shaking hands with your enemy and receiving a pat on the back from your enemy should never lull you to sleep that the enemy has changed. The enemy is the enemy. And when you fall asleep on that knowledge, that is when the enemy will take us out. The betrayals of his inner circle. Don't think that that is overseas. That is in our own house. And we today need to watch for those close around for signs of betrayal. Because it is written in the scriptures of the Bible that in the last days perilous times will come. And betrayal will be one of the marks of the end of the world, because people will feel that they'll be safer betraying a good cause, a just cause, to save their lives. Gaddafi died in honor, fighting for the Libya that he believed in. They would never have won if NATO was not bombing day in and day out. Brother Ali Baghdadi, that is a writer and a great Arab writer, said they bombed Libya back to the Stone Age. We were in Libya. We saw Libya being built from the ground up. We witnessed what this man did for the Libyan people. And for NATO to have bombed it like this, watch for Halliburton, watch for Bechtel, watch for the vultures of London, England, and France, and others trying to rebuild the infrastructure that they purposely destroyed, which is against international law. You went for humanitarian purposes, yet 50,000 Libyans lie dead because the West wanted access to the wealth of Libya. Now let me tell you what this man did. Did he kill people? Well, hell, did our president kill people? Talk back to me.
Yes.
You have made your president an assassin. that the only value that he has now is that he was responsible for the death of Osama bin Laden. He was captured without a weapon. He should have been brought to America, put on trial for the American people to see this man. But he was executed, so you will never know the real truth. Then Alaki, an American citizen who is against America's policies, a drone took him out and then came back later and killed his son. Now Muammar Gaddafi and his sons lie dead. Saddam Hussein and his sons lie dead. Well, what about your sons? They're dying in Iraq on the basis of a lie. They're dying in Afghanistan on the basis of a lie. And now drones are in Pakistan, drones in Somalia, drones in Yemen. When will it stop? America, do you think that you can get away with this? If it's time for another commercial, then you go on and take the commercial. I'm just warming up.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Brother Minister. Brother Minister, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is in our studio. Stay with us.
You're watching The Media Connection, and we're joining WVON talk show host Cliff Kelly as he talks to Minister Louis Farrakhan about the killing of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi.
It wasn't any money that he loaned to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or that he loaned to the Nation of Islam and forgave for $5 million that he loaned us, for you to think that I am that kind of prostitute, that I would give myself to any man for money. It's the principle that made me his brother. Now look at what this man did. After nationalizing the oil, he used the oil revenue to benefit the Libyan people, building schools, infrastructure, universities, hospitals. He raised the literacy rate from 20% when he became the leader, and at the time of his assassination, it is 83%. Libya has one of the finest healthcare systems in the third world. All people have access to doctors, hospitals, clinics, and medicines free of charge. If a Libyan needs surgery that is unavailable in Libya, funding is provided for the surgery to be carried out overseas. He raised the life expectancy of the Libyan people from 44 years, and now at the time of his assassination, 75 years of age. Basic food items were subsidized and electricity was made available throughout the country. Brother Muammar Gaddafi has set up huge irrigation projects which were established in order to support a drive toward agricultural development and food self-sufficiency. He spent $33 billion on the man-made river, where his engineers brought water up out of the desert, and now pipelines ran from Benghazi and Tobruk almost to the door of Tunisia. Any Libyan who wanted to become a farmer was and still is given free use of land, a house, farm equipment, livestock, and seed. Brother Muammar Gaddafi vowed that his own parents, who lived in a tent in the desert, would not be housed until every Libyan was housed. He fulfilled that promise. Under the revolutionary leadership of Muammar Gaddafi, Libya has now attained the highest standard of living in Africa. Money from Libya's oil revenue is directly deposited into the bank account of every Libyan. Women have full access to education, employment, and he has enabled women to serve in the armed forces. And this is most important. Gaddafi was the first and the only leader in the Arab world to formally apologize for the Arab role in the trade in captured Africans. Gaddafi acknowledged that the black Africans were the true owners of Libya and proclaimed in his Green Book, quote, "The black race shall prevail throughout the world." Now, Brother Gaddafi took oil money and started moving the Organization of African Unity toward the African Union, with a goal toward uniting 53, now 54 nations in Africa to the United States of Africa. Whenever we called Africa, our call had to go through Europe, and over $500 million went to Europe. But Gaddafi put up 400 million, and the rest of Africa put up 100 million and put up an African satellite. Now you can call directly to Africa from anywhere in the world without going through Europe. He asked the African nations to stop sending their raw materials to Europe to be made into products and then sent back to Africa to be paid for in an exorbitant price range. He wanted the Africans to take their raw materials and make them into products and then sell their products on the world market. This is the man that was assassinated, and I'll close this point. The minute he wanted Africa united, America, Britain, France, Germany, Europe was against it. So they set up NEPAD, a new economic development pact. Gaddafi was against it. Sarkozy came up with another plan to take all the North African nations that are Arab and unite them with the nations of Southern Europe. Gaddafi rejected that. America wanted to set up on the African continent African as a launching pad for the recolonization of Africa. Gaddafi was against that. I read an article by the Jewish man from a Zionist that was the former assistant to Rumsfeld. I can't call his name. Who?
Pearl?
No, not Pearl. Wolfowitz.
Wolfowitz, yeah.
Wolfowitz.
Hold your point, Minister. We got to go to the top of the hour break. That's the kind of information that I wanted you to give us.
You're watching The Media Connection, and now we're going to hear some candid words from Minister Louis Farrakhan as he speaks to the media and their role in exposing what he believes is the truth that's not being told. Let's join Cliff Kelly and Minister Louis Farrakhan.
This is a hell of a betrayal of the American people when you will not tell them the truth because you're afraid that if you tell the truth, your bosses will take your job from you. That's a hell of a thing. You don't have a democracy when you don't have a free press. You're all slaves and you love it. So you deserve what you get. The erosion of your democracy. You'll soon be the laughing stock of the world. It's a damn shame. That's why the children are occupying space in New York, in Boston, in Washington, in Chicago, in San Francisco, and other cities. Why? Because they're not looking to you as a source of information for them. Look how long it took you all to talk about what was going on in New York. It took you 2 weeks because the same people that control the banks control the media.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
You all know it,
Right.
but you're afraid to say it. But God put it on Farrakhan
Yes,
to
sir.
say it for you.
Yes, sir.
And maybe one day you'll get some courage to stand up and give America free media, a real free fourth estate.
That's right.
But right now,
No, sir.
you ain't even worth the time of day. You need somebody to tell the truth.
That's right.
You need.
I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think God would give his only begotten son for this world?
Think about it.
This thing. Look at the world that you live in. How rotten it is. We voted for our brother, Barack. Beautiful human being with a sweet heart. And now he's an assassin. They've turned him into them. Y'all didn't hear me. They turned. They brought him to England. See? Oh, now he can stay in Buckingham Palace. Nobody stayed there. Just a few presidents. Why him? Why? See, we know this enemy. See, America can sit down tyrants, but who will sit her down? She puts her trust in her weapons of war. She threatens the nations of the earth and has my brother calling for the assassination of brother Muammar Gaddafi. What has he done? I can defend that man. You don't know that man. See, you're a victim of that media that's controlled by satanic forces. My poor brother. They're bombing. They said they were only going over there for humanitarian reasons. We're going to stop Gaddafi from killing his own people, and we believe that. You've been deceived. You talk about a man killing his own people when you lie to the American people saying that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. When you lie and then take innocent young men who come to serve their country and send them to die in Iraq, in Afghanistan, over lies. That's a murderer in the White House. Who will say it? I will, because I have a power behind me that is bringing America to judgment as we speak.
If you felt this message, like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment. What does African freedom mean to you? Let's get this conversation into every classroom, village, and diaspora forum. This is AfriVlog. Until next time, stay woke, stay bold, stay united, and stay black. Please subscribe because you may not see us again next time.